Montrealers should prepare for a roller coaster ride when it comes to the economy in 2024. French requirements at Montreal Anglo universities, Quebec's new tuition hikes among the factors that are slowing down the city's economic growth. The city's rate of growth is the worst of 13 major Canadian markets. And that's the warning heeded by a report that's just out from the Conference Board of Canada. Liam Daly joins us, senior economist at the Conference Board of Canada. Liam, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Elias. Thank you.
Liam, how bad is it? Tell me how bad it is.
Well, it's not just Montreal. Currently, the whole economy is obviously facing headwinds under the weight of higher interest rates that are weighing on investment by firms, spending by consumers, and most obviously the housing market. However, Montreal is expected to do particularly badly given the slowdown in the tech sector, which is very important to Montreal's economy. And over the medium term, as you mentioned, what we're expecting to see is lower population growth in the Montreal region as a result of weaker inflows of international migrants relative to some of the other big cities across Canada.
Liam, you start off with how it's a bad situation across the country. So I want to tackle that for a second. Because I'm looking south of the border, okay, and the U.S. economy, which just keeps on chugging, keeps surprising every month. The job numbers are incredible. I know it from the people that left Montreal that I used to go to university with, or my friends from the university days who now live across the U.S., whether it's New York City or in L.A. or Nashville, Tennessee. And boy, the economy is doing well for them. So what do you think? What is happening here north of the border in this country that's leading to just bad numbers? 13 major markets, you're seeing bad numbers across the country. Why? Yeah,
you're right to point out that the U.S. economy is performing well, better than up here in Canada. There's several reasons for that. One I would point to would be the fact that there's lower productivity in Canada relative to the U.S., so our workers are producing less per hour relative to U.S. workers, and that's a real driver of growth. So that would be one major factor.
And any others that are worth mentioning?
Well, it's probably a lot to do with the industry mix as well. So the manufacturing sector is doing better in the U.S. relative to Canada. So it's industry stories are probably driving the difference.
So I'm seeing from your report the real GDP growth across Canada, which is projected to rise a mere 0.7% in 2024. What's your reaction to that number? It sounds terribly low, but I'm not an economist. I don't know. So you're
right to say it's a weak outlook, but is very much in line with expectations. So the bank's higher interest rates are really now we're feeling the full force of those, and both in terms of consumers pulling back on the amount of spending they're doing in the economy, but also firms pulling back on the amount of hiring they're doing in the economy. If we focus in Montreal, we track online job postings at the Conference Board, and we've seen in the last 18 months job postings fall by over 50%. So this is really in line with expectations that the year ahead is going to be one of weaker growth, but it's important to remember that pain comes with the advantage of cooling inflation, and so that means slower price growth and an easing on pressure on households and consumers across the country.
So a bad outlook across the country, and then Montreal is at the bottom of the bad outlook, which isn't good. So for our city, tell me about. So how is it? Take me through the process where various government decisions, both provincial and federal, have led to this outlook for the city.
Okay, so it's important to remember our outlook is a medium-term outlook. So we've actually forecasting the economy over the next 5 years. And an important input into these outlooks are population growth. Population growth underpins how big our labour force is, how many workers are available for firms, as well as demand in the economy. More people, more demand. In Montreal, what we're seeing is that on top of Quebec's decision to have low immigration targets relative to the rest of Canada, there were also moves that have been widely publicised that are likely to impact the number of international students arriving into the city of Montreal. As a result, Montreal's population growth outlook is relatively weak relative to some of the larger urban centres such as Vancouver and Toronto. And as a result of that, our outlook over the medium term is weaker in Montreal.
And when we say that population growth slowing, I see here 0.2% growth by 2028. That little.
Yeah. And that's a result of flows of international migrants, but also the fact that the population is growing older. Mm-hmm. We have a rising number of deaths. We have low fertility, which is not unique to Montreal. This is common across many developed countries in the Western world. But these factors come together to produce a lower population growth.
Liam, does the Conference Board of Canada have any suggestions on how to turn it around? Are there solutions to make this outlook a little less bleak?
Well, it's hard to ignore the important influence of international inflows, both of immigrants and of temporary residents, as a means to counterbalance the effect of population aging. But alongside that, it's important to remember that international migration alone is not a silver bullet, and it's important to focus, as I mentioned earlier, on boosting productivity. That's necessary in order to get more out of the resources that we have available. And to do that, we really need to encourage higher levels of investment among firms in productive capital. There's obviously many emerging technologies that may allow us to do that, but that's really going to be key to helping support growth as the population continues to age.
Liam, is there a country around the world that you and your colleagues at the Conference Board of Canada, you look at and say, boy, that country, they get it. They're bucking trends. They know what they're doing. Any country that you're in awe of when it comes to economic growth?
Well, I mean, our focus is really on Canada. Mm-hmm. As we mentioned, the U.S. economy is performing well. However, it does have its own challenges, and I think that's really the case across most of Western economies, that we are seeing crunches on the demographic side, and this is creating pressures. And different economies are going to respond in different ways. Some will move towards higher levels of immigration. Others will move towards developing more capital. I think what's really important is to have a multifaceted approach to these pressures we're facing.
Liam, we have to leave it there. I want to thank you for your time this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Liam Daly right there, senior economist at the Conference Board of Canada.